Hey, welcome to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. My name is Ian Cantle, and I'm joined by Dan, Jen, Ken, and Paul. Let's chat. Chatty Cathy, chit chat, chat it up. These are all terms that include the word chat, and today we're talking about chat technologies. Live chat, chatbots, and instant messaging, SMS, super hot topics these days. But what are these technologies? How do they differ from each other? How can they help you connect with customers and prospects? And should you as a business owner invest in them? That's what we're going to be covering today. So let's jump in and explore, and let's get chatting. All right, Mr. Ken, can you start us off by describing a little bit about what live chat, instant messaging, chatbots are and how they work?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of overlap and a lot of people use the same terms for lots of different technologies. Um, Live chat is really just, the ability to interact with users when they contact your business. They go to a website, they initiate a chat, and then they have a conversation with a real person. Instant messaging is a form of text-based communication where people are communicating in a conversation through their computers or mobile devices. Um, you've got chatbots that provide automated responses that try to mimic and provide like live human agent type responses. You've got Facebook Messenger, you've got Google My Business messaging now. I'm a big fan of using two-way SMS conversations. Um, there's a right way and a wrong way to do text message communications with your clients. But I think that when you look at speed of response, it's absolutely critical. When somebody goes to your website, they want to communicate with somebody. If they're ready to fill out that form or they're ready to click on the little chat bubble that shows up at the bottom, regardless of what type it is, whether it's a live chat, whether it's the chatbot or an instant message type of capability, they're and I've seen this explode, since COVID started and businesses started shutting down. People's behaviors just started to really change. And so when people click on that little chat bubble down usually in the lower right hand corner of a website, all they want to do is they want to put in their name, their contact information, and a short little message, and be done with it, and then put the burden back on the business to respond to them. And so it's become one of the most important, if not the most important, lead capture system that we see on most of our clients' websites. I want to talk about speed of response because it's just absolutely so critical. If you call within 5 minutes, you are 21 times more effective than calling after 30 minutes. If you call after 5 minutes, the odds of qualifying capturing that qualified lead drop by 80%. 50 to 78% of leads go with the vendor that provides the first response. And businesses who contact a lead within the first hour are 7 times more likely to qualify and get that lead to do business with them than somebody who responds 2 hours later. Now, it's going to vary obviously widely across industries, but I think with those statistics, the key takeaway is speed of response is absolutely critical. I would recommend doing a two-way SMS conversation. And you can automate responses. You don't have to monitor these things live. I think that's the big misconception that a lot of people have is they think if I put this kind of a widget on my website, I'm going to have somebody who's there to respond constantly. You can automate responses, whether it's using a chatbot type of a feature or you automate SMS responses back to somebody with like driving directions or things like that. But the key thing is you want to respond. You want to immediately send them a response back. If they're looking for an estimate, for example, you want to send them a calendar link to automatically book on your calendar or schedule an appointment if they're looking for a chiropractor or a dentist as fast as possible. Super important. It's probably something. I think it's low-hanging fruit that every single business needs to do. The other thing is you should make sure you text enable your phone number on your website. If you do not have a text enabled phone number on your website, you are missing opportunities like crazy. And giving people the ability to either call from this, chat feature, or fill out a simple form and initiate that conversation, critical.
When you were talking there, Ken, it reminded me of hearing a guest speaker at an event I was at, Perry Marshall, and he was talking about how, as a business, your first thing from a lead generation standpoint is to really understand what the prospect's urgent need is. He called it the bleeding neck, because if somebody has a bleeding neck, you have to take care of their bleeding neck first before you talk about anything else. And so, your stats about the quickness to respond is really valuable. I've seen that in my business as well, where I've actually won business, and they've told me I won the business because I was one of the few that actually responded to them within a reasonable time frame.
It's amazing to me. I mean, I think sometimes marketing agencies are the worst at responding, or website developers in particular. Marketing agencies may be better than that, but people who just develop websites and that's all they really do, they're generally horrible at it, which is really a bad. And if they're bad at it, why would you hire them? I mean, I don't get it. But what you said, Ian, I had an experience this weekend where somebody contacted my business, and it wasn't through a web chat widget, but it was somebody who contacted my business. I sent them a quick little response back, with a calendar link so that they could book a time on my calendar so we'd have a deeper conversation. We had a great conversation, and I got back to her within 15 minutes. And, I feel really good about the possibility of being able to work with that client.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a good example too of how being responsive can make all the difference. Paul, I wanted to ask you, like, these technologies, it sounds like they're all very cool, and they some are better than others, it sounds like. But how does a business go about integrating these onto their website, and is it difficult?
It depends on the platform you're using, and it depends on the platform you're using.
Spoken like a person that understands the true technologies behind that. That's a fantastic caveat.
The thing is, it may be a plugin, it might be a module, which is basically another term for a plugin, depending on the CRM you're using. It may be a code snippet. A lot of times you'll have the option of using one or the other. So in the case of WordPress, for instance, it's generally pretty easy. A lot of times it's just a plugin. You configure your widget, sometimes within the plugin, sometimes you configure it on the chatbot platform itself and the plugin pulls it in. Or sometimes you may decide, I don't want to use a plugin, I'm just going to use an iframe, for instance, and pull it in that way. But unless you're using something like Magento, it's probably something that most people could, with some level of technical skill, could do.
That's awesome.
Generally,
and most websites right now for small business tend to be on WordPress. Like, that's the biggest platform. Obviously, there's other platforms like Wix and some of the other easy, builder platforms. But it's good to hear that WordPress is one of the easier ones to install on.
Yes, it is. And even though I would generally not recommend Wix or Squarespace, it's usually pretty easy to add it to there as well.
But there you have to add the script code usually, right, Paul?
Usually, yes.
And so if you've built your own website as a business owner in Wix or Squarespace, you might need to get help. Technically, it's not a super hard thing to do, but it's more technical than using a drag and drop visual page builder.
Yep. Good point. Jen, what are the benefits of putting one of these technologies on your website?
Well, here's the thing. So I did some research on this, and I've got a document here, the 12 benefits of Chatbots, but I want to go through the first 5 because I think they're most applicable. So the first one is 24-hour service. Obviously, your potential customers can get answers and get some information while perhaps in your time zone everybody's gone home or gone to sleep. Second one is getting an instant response. Third is answers to simple questions. Fourth is easy communications. And fifth is complaints resolved quickly, which, I say with a bit of hesitation because it would have to be a simple complaint. I don't know how many of you have tried to kind of have a conversation with a chatbot and you're like, I thought I had one complaint, but now I'm complaining about your chatbots.
Exactly.
And I just want to go in here a little bit because in this report is very interesting because they had another benefit about having chatbots on your website. And I had to laugh when I read this. It says endless patience, right? Because the chatbot, what they were saying is, as opposed to a live human, a customer service representative, the chatbot never runs out of patience with you. But I don't know about your guys' experience, but unless it's, a basic question, directions, are you open, something that can be answered by, picking a number or whatever, if it's not done right, it can start to infuriate your human on the other end of it. So
it may not lose patience, but it can run out of answers.
Ah, well said. Well said. Yes. Then you end up going around in a loop. And it's just, it kind of reminds me sometimes, if I was going to take the opposite view of chatbots are so amazing. I mean, they are amazing, but it kind of feels like, sometimes when you go for tech help with certain websites or certain software applications, they send you to the knowledge base first of all, which is like crazy making for someone that is not putting their complaints in exactly the way the document was entered. Yes. So you never find your answer. You're like, really, it's like this. I can't be the only one with this problem. So, yeah. I mean, chatbots have, I think done well, they can definitely help you, but you have to be careful. They can't replace the humans, at least not yet. At least not yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. One of the interesting things I was exploring in the past 2 months, just helping clients with chatbots, was actually integrating it with Google's backend. So there's a backend artificial intelligence platform that Google's built out that you can now integrate into some of your chatbots. And what I found interesting with that is that it is all about, they actually call it conversational robots, because it's all about how do you can pose it as a robot. You can say, I'm just a bot, ask me what you want. If you don't get the answer, call this number, right? So that's one response. But with the way they've built out that back-end AI and it learns as it goes, I was quite impressed with it. Obviously, it's garbage in, garbage out, so it only knows as much as you put in there. But I thought it was very interesting how it was quite good at being able to answer similar questions asked in different ways, which original chatbots were really horrible at, right? Like if you didn't use the right keyword that it was looking for, it had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, being responsive, just what Ken was talking about, I think plays right into what you're talking about, right? Like it's still what people do is they buy from other people. And so, maybe there's room for a chatbot to bridge that gap a little bit for easy to answer questions. But right now it's really about how do you then bridge that gap, and make a connection with the person in order to get them to walk through your doors or make that purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have an example of a really good one, though. Like a good first. I'm just looking at it here on the screen. So, what brings you to our company today? And there's 4 choices, and if your choice isn't of the top 3, you can hit other, and presumably it shuffles you through to a human to get some help that way. So. In that way, on the human side, it's like, okay, I know I'm going to be parsed off into a certain category based on what I choose. But if my choice is not there, at least they know, okay, there's, 54 other questions that could be asked that we got to be able to help you with.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a choose your own adventure book, right? Where page 39.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good point, Jen. I think there's a really good use in some cases to shortcut and provide an alternative menuing kind of a structure to take people right to the section of your website that they might want to get to.
Yeah.
And I've seen that type of menu system work quite well, just similar to what you were saying, Jen, in that you can also include options where, you can actually use it as a lead generator, and you can actually say, hey, we are you interested in this ebook offer that we have? And that's one of those menu options in order to get them into your funnel so that you can continue the conversation if it's a longer sale.
Yeah, I think you have to fast food the reward. You have to do it. It's if I pull up to the drive-through window at McDonald's, I don't want them to say, would you also, as long as you're here, also like to learn about our other offerings that we have? No, I just want my damn food. So I don't care about, the thing that I think is important here is, are we prolonging going around a reward for a long time? Hey, do you have more questions? Yes, I got an answer. It doesn't mean, though, that I still want to hire you. It doesn't even mean that I'm going to necessarily have a discovery meeting with you. And I think that's the issue here, is that, at some point, by like the third question, you better be giving them what they came for in some way. Like you said, an ebook, a link to something, whatever gratification. Because if you're just keeping asking them questions, I'm gone. Like by question 3, I'm out. I'll find somebody else. Like that's not gonna, that's the one part of chat technology that I think is kind of, oh, this is cool and hot. And it can, to your point, Jen, when we ask somebody a question as a human being, I want to give them some gratification for why they came. And I don't want to keep asking them questions like they're like I'm on a cop show with them. Like I want to be able to say, okay, well, you came to the right place. Just so you know, we have this, so we can help you. And then you can keep the dialogue going after that, but not for, let me ask you 20 questions through a chatbot. Oh, screw that. I'm gone. Like that's never going to happen. And I think if I feel that way, then I have to think about the user experience too.
Well, and I think you're dead on there, Dan, about the user experience, because this should all be user focused. It shouldn't, some of the stuff, especially when you get into larger businesses where they're feeling customer service questions or even prospecting questions that are, they're doing it all day, and it's like, where are you located? What's your phone number? Which are all plainly on your website anyways. But these technologies are kind of a shortcut to get answers. One of the technologies, or one of the ways I've seen it used really well, is if you integrate it with your calendaring and appointment system, people can just type in, I want to make an appointment. It's like, boop, here's the availability. And that right there, I think, is the kind of the humanizing of it, where you give an immediate, credible, and appropriate response to something people are looking for. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's about giving the people what they want, and that takes thought to do it, and strategy. You kind of broached this, Dan, but are there other dangers or inherent problems, and not just with chatbots? We're talking a lot about chatbots, but with any of these technologies, there's kind of this continuum of, you've got live chat where there's a live person on it, you've got chatbots where there's no live person, but maybe you can escalate to a live person, and then you've kind of got this intermediary stuff where it's like Facebook instant messaging or Facebook Messenger that will try to connect you with the people on the other end, but it depends if they're available, right? So
yeah, I mean, I will be completely transparent here, and maybe even stir the pot a little bit. I on purpose don't put a live chat on my website right now. It doesn't mean I never will, but there's something about I think about how I have felt sometimes when I've gone into some of these places where I've needed tech support of any kind. And I get the live chat kind of thing, the chatbot kind of thing. And, what you get is, are you looking for this? And then you are sent into the article labyrinth of stuff. which is kind of why I usually don't like FAQ pages, even though they're great for SEO and all that, and I understand that. But when you send me there, and I have a problem, when you have a chatbot and you send me to more articles, I don't want more articles. I want a human. So you need to show me when I'm going to get a human. And to your point, I think on what you were saying earlier, Ian, is I want to know when I'm getting that human. And maybe I can, if it didn't answer my question, can I break through and get an immediate phone number? And can I get, if I can't get a phone number, can I get an email of a person? And can I get that response within hours, not days? There are some companies that fall flat on their butt because of this. I had it just 2 days ago with a company I was interested in for some help. They had a chat bot. I said, this is why I'm contacting you. I even, was very clear about it. And have I heard back from them yet? No. And they are not small. So guess what? They ain't going to get the business because they can't respond in 2 days. So that's the kind of thing that you have to be prepared for is, okay, live chat is cool. Chatbots are cool. But if you suck at response, like we've said, don't put a damn chatbot on your website. You're just going to look like more of a person who sucks at response. So, that's where you got to really think about why you're doing it. Are you doing it because it's shiny and new and hot and everybody else is doing it? Or are you doing it because it can actually help you with your response because you're committed to responding within X amount of hours? That's not a chatbot problem. It's a customer service problem.
Yeah.
But they go hand in hand. So the way I do it instead, I think I like chatbots, but I like text messaging for the moment. Mm-hmm. So I think you or Jen alluded to this is if you are, for example, at an event, and we've said this before, if you have something immediate and you're giving, hey, I hope you enjoyed visiting with me at this trade show booth or hearing me speak or whatever, text this phrase to this number and you will get a series of responses. 3, not 30, 3. And then you're going to get a link or some kind of next step call to action. There's no qualifying. There's no, other than knowing, hey, what's your phone number or your email? That's about it. So I think you got to shorten and compress the next step qualification very quickly so that you can get closer. The sooner you get to a human connection, your chatbot, your SMS can be the secretary, but it cannot be the answer. I think, Jen, as you said, it doesn't replace humans. And this is where it falls. It absolutely fails for a lot of people, is they expect this thing to replace a human, and it doesn't. It does not replace a human being. And until we get that technology, recognize it for being an amazing qualifier, an amazing admin, if you will, or even adding to your potential amount of leads. But is it going to give you oh, this is so-and-so and they do this and they want to sign on the dotted line next Thursday? Yeah, I don't buy it. I'm not seeing that. So recognize how you can really use this and why are you doing it? Does it have that purpose? And I think that's where you want to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things you said, and I think it was word association because you talked about McDonald's earlier, but it's not the same, but it's similar in that when McDonald's moved from person-to-person service to the digital display ordering, I think that at the time, I don't know if it's leveled out because I don't go there a lot, but at the time, the few times I have been there, it's infuriated me because to order 3 items for a family of 4 or however many that is, 12 items, I guess. It took 10 minutes. It felt like 10 minutes. I don't know if it was that long, but it felt like forever. Whereas if I walked up to a server and said, hey, we want this deal, this deal, this deal, this deal, I was done and my food's being prepared. And so I think taking that customer view of, I know there's economic reasons why they would do that, but it wasn't for the benefit of me as a customer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, think about what we've been conditioned to over the last year now. We are in a frame of mind where we don't want to learn. We want to, we want to get it. We want to get it now. Like, maybe I know I'm doing food stuff. Maybe it's just we're getting closer to 12. I'm sorry, but you know, why is Uber Eats killing it right now? Like, it's because I don't want to think about it. I just want to say, I liked that from last time. Reorder, one button. I'm going to get it in 20, 25 minutes. Or is maybe some other applications kind of remember my preferences. So this is another, I know it sounds different, but it's really not, is when someone goes through this experience of a live chat or SMS or something like that, can we remember the preferences and get that service even faster? Oh, welcome back, Mr. Gershenson. I know that you like blah, 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 whatever. You know, can it connect me directly to the person who was helping me? And by the way, service-based firms, this goes for you too. If you're a law firm of 50 people, I don't want to talk to if I get a random person, I'm going to be pissed off. And I don't want that. I want somebody, can it connect me directly to the person who was helping me before? Again, this is the switchboard now. So I think that's where the expectation is going to be of helping me within, say, 3 questions, not a library. We've always hated those phone trees, for God's sakes. We don't need a text version of it now. We just need to be able to connect to humans faster. And this can be a wonderful way to do it if it's the front end and it's done well.
You know what? That's so interesting you say that. I had a recent experience with that where I had an order number. We were still negotiating what kind of deal it is. I put the order number in the chat because it said do that, and then we'll pull up everything. Something either malfunctioned or I don't know what exactly happened, but I got routed right back to the beginning. Hi, how are you? Here's our offer. And this is basically a 5-figure deal we're trying to put together. And I just felt like I even said it to them in the nicest possible way. Like, look, this is a big transaction for our business. And I'm being routed right back to the beginning when we're like halfway through, almost ready to sign the deal. Like, it's
Are you saying technology breaks sometimes? I don't believe it.
You know, it's funny because like something like that, it's just so ridiculous, and that's like you said, it's a big deal. I think sometimes, here's the thing, people think AI stuff is, like we said, is going to replace us, and it's not. What I would suggest instead is, can you take a chatbot and route it to my VA? And why would I want to do that? Because that sounds redundant, doesn't it? But my VA isn't necessarily going to be able to pick up the phone. So this is the catch-all for that. And then by getting that SMS routine going, and I know who it is, then my VA can then get that call and follow up very quickly for me. So it can be a great helper for us. It doesn't replace us. So I think that's the way to use it, quite frankly, if you're going to.
I don't know if anybody's done this acronym before, but just as you were talking, Dan, I'm like, TLC, think like a customer. I know the A is an extra one, but I can't do anything about that. But think like a customer, right? We as business owners have to be thinking like a customer.
Yeah.
But Ian, I have to jump in. Your example about McDonald's. Look, if you're not willing to pay more for a burger that you get there, why would you expect to continue to have that personalized customer service?
Can I just say this though, Ken? I don't think they reduced their staff at all. At least from my perception, the staff looks exactly the same. They're just doing different tasks, like fixing orders that people are frustrated with because they're like, I didn't mean to push that button.
Yeah, I think. I do think that there are a lot of businesses that do need to be concerned about AI replacing workers, but also taking advantage of it where it makes sense. You have to do it within reason. That's the whole that's the whole key. I think that's what we've been talking about here for the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, it's like, do you want, I'll be a little optimistic here. I don't think it's so much replacing as much as teaching some of these people who have been doing, let's say, a lower level task to do some higher level stuff and elevating them up and into a new role where, you know, let's say, for example, any Walmart right now, at least around here, any Walmart, any CVS is not with a person anymore. It is with one person helping out in case you have a problem. So now we've got all these extra people that we used. Well, we could get rid of them, or we could put them in other parts of our store, or helping out with logistics, or anything like that we can train them for. So I don't know that we necessarily have to, you know, it's an opportunity. I don't think I'm going to be as doom and gloom about it necessarily. I'm hopeful for AI.
Well, what you're saying too, Dan, is what we're not talking about is we're looking through the lens of how people behave now. But you're right, people's behaviors change over time, just like with self-serve grocery stores and stuff like that, which I hate. I let my kids do that, and I just pack the bags, but because the machines don't understand me for some reason. But yeah, like I think it'll be interesting to see how people adapt and adopt the technologies, because you know, we're looking at it through the lens of today where it might be stretching us a little bit, but people might adopt them very easily. And as long as we build smarter chatbots or use live chat better, whatever it is, and we get smarter about how we use those for the customers, it might be very acceptable.
Think about it like as if you were at CVS and you wanted to buy an adult beverage. Maybe I've done that a few times. Like then you can't be wrung out by a machine. You have to have a human being that goes, oh, let me help you. Here's my ID, and now you can check that out. What's the version of that for your service-based business? If your person gets hung up, what's the way for them to quickly get someone? Because if they don't get someone within hours, not days, I don't think that's going to convert.
Yep. Ken, Dan talked a little bit about this, but I wondered if you could go deeper into this. None of these technologies necessarily can complete the sale for a new customer, right? They might start the communication, they might drive them quickly to SMS, which then you can schedule things or chat with them. But how can a business leverage these technologies and these integrations to, and maybe warm handoffs, because there are some technologies where you can do instant, you know, have a chatbot actually do a warm handoff to a live person over the phone, right, or through SMS. But how can businesses use these moving forward for the sale?
Yeah, well, you know, I think you've got to recognize your sales cycle. And, you know, in some cases, I think it might very well be possible that the bot could basically take your order. If somebody goes to a website, it's a fairly simple, you know, typically lower priced type of a thing that somebody might be buying, you know, then that bot might actually be able to help you complete that transaction without any other human intervention. If it's something that's going to have a longer sales cycle, you know, and we have to think about, you know, looking at, you know, what stages are people going to be going through, what, you know, what type of content or, you know, nurture, if we will, you know, then email and SMS are the two most powerful ways to do that. And you absolutely want to try to, you know, incorporate marketing automation to help facilitate that. At the end of the day, I think marketing automation serves best right now for most of us, where it's used to facilitate and expedite the process of getting somebody to talk to the person when they're ready. So it's you know, but we realize, you know, a lot of people through their typical buyer's journey, they've got control. They're looking for information. They aren't ready to talk to people. They aren't ready to close a deal. Use that part of automation to bridge that gap and facilitate that process, expedite it frequently, and then deliver people to the point where they're ready to talk to a human, where they need to close that deal. You know, the other thing I think we need to talk about is omni-channel. I mean, there are so many different ways that people can get to you. Google now gives people the ability to start to communicate with a business through Google My Business Messenger, Facebook Messenger, Instagram direct message, WhatsApp. There are just, and then you've got the SMS and the traditional form fill on a website or a phone call, all of which are channels that you ought to be capturing in a central place so that you can do something with them and have that central console, an app either on your phone or on the desktop if you're working desktop or a laptop, where you can consolidate those conversations, have them all in one place, and be able to respond in that omni-channel way with whatever form of communication any given particular customer wants to communicate with your business.
Yeah, and it sounds like what you're saying is exactly what Jen and Dan kind of uncovered in their experiences, is that if a business doesn't have a CRM, some sort of customer relationship management software that actually can see every interaction, regardless of what type of interaction, there's going to be gaps and you're going to frustrate people.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
Paul, some chatbot platforms have artificial intelligence in them. We talked a little bit about that. But for those of us that may think the robots are taking over the world, can you describe what this form of AI is and how it can create a better experience for users?
Well, they are going to take over the world. Didn't you see Terminator?
Dang.
Actually, all chatbots have some degree of artificial intelligence in them. Chatbots are really a subset within artificial intelligence. And, we've gotten to a point where it's gotten really sophisticated. It can actually learn and anticipate and, in some cases, solve problems. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit, and it can create a better user or a better experience for users if it's properly implemented and designed. Because some of the more sophisticated ones, a lot of times you'll have someone say, well, I want a chatbot that, like Jen was talking about, and we've all talked about a little bit, that it can, answer these questions and give these responses and send them here or there. What they don't realize is what that takes on the back end. This has to be programmed. It has to be set up. And a lot of times it's not simply, depending on how sophisticated you want to be, it's not a matter of facts and FAQs and questions. There's some serious programming that has to be done. And is that necessary for what you need to do for your customers' experience and their interaction with your business? And at some point, that bot is going to run out of answers. Someone's going to ask a question that bot can't answer. And now you have to have a failover. And I think in that, the more sophisticated the bot is, the more important it is for that failover to be a real person, because you've just wasted 10 minutes of their time, whatever it is, going through questions. And now the bot says, oh, screw you, can't answer the question. Here, send a text message. No, at that point, they're going to want to talk to a real person. So yes, I think it can be very beneficial and it can enhance the user experience if it is properly designed and implemented.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the ones I came across recently was actually quite humorous in how they handled that, you hit a dead end, right? And they actually used GIFs or whatever, like some funny ones.
Yeah,
and it was like, oh, dang, you crossed my circuits kind of thing, or whatever they were playing up to. But I've seen a few like that. And it's like, click here to be connected to a real person. And it's like, okay, that's kind of a fun way to handle the issue rather than being embarrassed. Just say, it can't do everything, but it can do some things.
Absolutely.
Jen, I think because of everybody that's on this panel, we can probably all agree that every marketing effort should have a strategic reason for it. What are a few of the strategic reasons for implementing one of these technologies?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for all of the, complaining and whatnot, there's some great reasons for doing this. So again, just referencing another piece of research I was able to dig up here with some help. Thank you, Ian. So operationally, so it says here, chatbots have cut down operational costs for companies by up to 30%. So there really is some cost savings there done right. Chatbots can answer almost 80% of all standard questions. So every industry, every company, no matter what kind of price point you're at, has some standard questions that these will be very, very good for. Ken, you alluded to, or you talked a lot about lead generation with this. So 36% use it to generate more leads. And I know we've been talking about McDonald's and Uber Eats and all that kind of stuff. But actually, according to this report, 58% of the companies that use chatbots are B2B. So that would indicate long sales cycle, probably pretty high price point. So if you are in B2B, this is not just a consumer play for you.
That's awesome. Those are great examples. Thanks, Jen. Dan, we've been talking about connecting with our visitors. So the human-to-human contact or the bot-to-human contact through these technologies. But people buy from people generally. I know some of our behaviors have changed, and now we buy through Uber Eats, but ultimately it's a person feeding us. But especially locally, I think that's true, that we buy from people locally. How do we ensure that we don't lose sight of this regardless of the technologies that we choose?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you want to bring into, I like to bring into this, is the marketing hourglass, to say, well, where is this on the know, like, trust side of the marketing hourglass before they go into trying and buying? Well, it's probably pretty early, unless they know they really want to work with you, that they are going to try and buy you. Then they may not even trust you probably at that point. So I think you got to look at your other know and like kind of tactics and say, is this going toe to toe with these other ones in terms of how soon these other ones can get me? Because I go back to this thing of, when you think about it, what's the easiest time frame? Well, phone, obviously, someone calling you, or hopefully with emailing you within maybe an hour or two, if you're like me and you can't stop looking at your email. So that's kind of the standard. Okay, well, how much outside of that standard do you want to go? Because that's the best human to human part. That's the best human to human standard that there is. Are you going to tell me now that I should invite chatbots into that if it means that it's going to be significantly longer? Or is it going to be possibly my very best salesperson? Because again, the way I look at this is, if I'm a human, which I am, I want to get someone to that next step as soon as possible. And what is that next step? Well, for me, it's a discovery meeting. And after that discovery meeting, it's going to be a try or a bye-bye, because I'm not going to spend hours getting to know you. I don't want to get to know you over 17 different meetings. I want to get to know you over one meeting, and then let's take a baby step. So I think you have to look at this in terms of, if it's going to replace you, not temporarily, then how is it going to move that along? Because if it can't do it the way you would, which is moving it along, then how's it going to do that within 3-4 questions, which is simply getting to you as soon as possible, and hopefully getting you some information even when you pick up the phone. Hey, Ian, thanks for calling. I see you're from this and this area, but you're asking about this. So at its best, I think this technology makes us better salespeople and more prepared for the first conversation we're going to have. It gives us the information to convert them into whatever they came here for, versus, turning them away. It can be our best salesperson, it really can. But you have to shorten and compress that time frame to make it as smart as it is intended to be. Because asking 10 questions, I don't think that's going to get it done. We'll get a lot of information, and that's that.
Yeah. Dan, I love how you brought in the marketing hourglass, because I think that's really key in the thinking process of how these technologies can be used, because it is about probably the know, like, and probably can bridge into the trust if you're sharing ebooks or whatever, or even scheduling appointments or whatever. But it has its place, and it can also for especially for larger businesses with customer retention issues where they answer a lot of questions, or I need to check the status of this order. You can do that through technologies like this, except in an experience like Jen had where it loses its mind and it loses your order and stuff like that. So there, it's really interesting. I like how you brought in the marketing hourglass. Anybody with some last thoughts they want to share?
I think don't overcomplicate this. Keep it simple. And realize, it's easy for us to fall into this trap of thinking that it's going to be know, like, and trust. But you got to realize people are going to be on your website from a variety of stages through the buying cycle. They may be literally coming to your website this time to buy or to schedule that free estimate or schedule a teeth whitening or something like that. So don't forget about that. That's an important aspect of what these things do, is they actually get people to take actionable steps to actually start to buy from your business and set up that time frame to do so. But keep it simple. Use it as a way to start a conversation is the best way. Just because you can develop all of these cool, sophisticated responses doesn't mean you necessarily should. I think it's just, I don't want people to come away from this episode thinking, oh my gosh, there's too many things that I could risk here and screw up. Don't let that stop you from putting one of these on your website, because it is an important way to begin the conversation. And if you don't do anything else, use it as a starting point to begin a conversation.
That's a really good point. I think, for the longest time, I think I was against the whole idea of text message marketing, and it's because I felt how it was as a
one way people communicate now.
Yeah, and so it was purely off of the experience I had as a customer, but I realized that that's not the format that's the problem. It's the message that was the problem. So I think if you focus on that and you go, how can I use this to craft the best, tightest, focused messaging towards a purpose, and I can think that through, then the format can be your friend. So yes, I totally, if I can come around the way I was, I think anybody can, quite frankly, because I was dead set against it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this can totally complement what I'm doing.
One of the pieces of advice it comes up in conversations all the time with prospects and customers is it's not about the tool. It's about what you deliver with the tool, right? So don't get hung up on the tool. Be smart when you choose the tool, but what you're trying to accomplish should be driving which tool you choose. Guys, this sounds like a really good place to wrap it up today. You have been fantastic at enlightening our listeners and doing some great exploring of this topic. As marketing guides, we believe that these chat technologies have a place in businesses. Maybe not every business, but in some businesses within their marketing mix, and should be explored as part of the overall marketing strategy. Thanks to our panelists for sharing their thoughts on live chatbots and instant messaging. We'll be off the air next week, but we will be back the following week, where we hope you'll join us, the Marketing Guides for Small Business. Thanks, everyone.